So let me introduce our speaker, Steve Garfein, who's an illustrious member as well. Steve founded RPM Systems in 1979. Since its founding, RPM has primarily worked in three domains: strategic portfolio management, expanding strategic throughput, and managing operational change. Steve is writing a 20-episode streaming video series entitled Understanding Howard Hughes, as responsible for the enterprise-wide project management organization. He was a three-person corporate finance committee member with strategic portfolio responsibility, including research and development, all for the Apache.
Right.
Okay.
Use helicopters.
Hughes helicopter. So without further ado, Steve, take it away.
All right. May I use that microphone?
Stand behind the speaker, otherwise it'll
Right.
be back.
Well, this has been a voyage of discovery. I teach AI. I've been teaching it now for 10 terms to adults. And this unfolded like a novel. Max and Steve asked me to present, but I presented everything I knew about. And I knew something about AI, but I really, even though I follow the military closely, I really needed to do a deep dive. And the deep dive was the voyage of discovery. I discovered things I had no idea about and correlations and so on. So now I'm going to do something very brave. I'm going to do something live with AI, and we'll see if it works. Yesterday, using my phone, I queried AI. Give me a second. Hello, I'm back. Let's talk about Andrel. Let's talk about AI. You remember our conversation from yesterday?
Absolutely. I remember we chatted about Anduril and his focus on defense technology, especially the interesting aspects of AI integration and autonomous systems they're developing. It's a fascinating area. Happy to dive deeper into it or explore any new angles you have in mind.
Well, they are involved in two programs that I'm going to talk about in the slides. So one is the Air Force, which was prior known as the Loyal Wingman Project, and then the Navy Undersea Warfare Project. Give us a brief recap of those two.
Sure. So the first program you mentioned is the Air Force's effort that was previously known as the Loyal Wingman Project. In essence, it's about developing autonomous drones that can float alongside crewed fighter jets. Essentially as teammates or wingmen, these drones can carry out a variety of tasks like reconnaissance or extending the sensor reach of the piloted aircraft. On the other hand, the Navy's Undersea Warfare Project focuses on... Sure. Let me give you a quick recap in a nutshell. The first program is the Air Force's initiative, previously known as the Loyal Wingman Project, and it's all about creating autonomous drones that can accompany piloted jets as their partners in the sky. Meanwhile, the Navy's Undersea Warfare Project is focused on underwater drones that handle missions beneath the ocean. Both are really fascinating areas of AI and defense tech.
All right, what I'd like you to do now is talk about the controversy with Anthropic and around Anthropic and the use of their software with DoD.
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. So the controversy around Anthropic really stems from the ethical debates about using AI in military applications. Anthropic is known for its strong emphasis on AI safety and ethical considerations, and some of their team members have been vocal about ensuring that AI is used responsibly. The partnership with the Department of Defense has raised questions and sparked debates about the balance between advancing technology and maintaining strong ethical standards. It's an ongoing discussion in the tech community about where to draw those lines.
All right, that's all for now. You did great today, and I'll be talking to you later today and giving you a performance score. Thank you.
You have fear that the
You're welcome. I'm really glad I could help.
Which AI was that?
Which AI was that? I don't know. The reason I don't know, this is an Android phone. It was probably Microsoft, but I don't know it was the Microsoft ChatGPT that I use because I subscribe to it at $22 a month. And this may have been just the plain vanilla free version. So I really don't know which version it was. But if it's the free version, it was pretty good. All right. Now, so I said this was a voyage of discovery, and let me take you through it. What you see are the two aircraft. The one with the V tail in the bottom of the screen is the Andro version. It's the T-tail. We'll talk more about that. And Bob, this is where you come in because it has to do with pilot workload. And Bob, you've flown with, well, you commanded a squadron of A-10s, and you certainly know the wingman's job, right? So, so the question in the Q&A that I'll want you to speak to is pilot workload, okay? So let's see. Okay, so across the top of the screen are these red topics, central thesis, key risks, and strategic themes. So I'm going to talk about those first. They're going to be text. I have a very little text in this, but it's important to lay the groundwork for what follows. And then at the very end of this presentation, I'm going to talk about the bottom line. Why don't you move so the sun's not in your eyes? I'm very audience oriented. There's a seat right there. Right there. Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. All right, so oh, that's right, it goes the other way, okay. So this is the central thesis, and AI is rewriting the kill chain. And Jim, I think you sent me this article, and it's reducing the cost of human error. Now, I was an artillery officer. I was on the ground in the mud, and I know what the kill chain is. I was never sent to Vietnam. I'm a Vietnam era guy. I commanded an artillery battery. And this diagram is a very accurate diagram. I'm not going to go into the detail of it, but it shows the kill chain process. And it shows on the bottom how AI comes in and informs it. The decision making. There's a great deal of fear about this right now, taking the human out of the loop. And we'll talk about that in some detail. And this is another article that I received. This is an actual photograph. Most of the things I'm showing here, the graphics are AI generated. And when I've got a real photograph, I'll let you know. Everything else is AI. This is a command post inside Israel that's a joint force monitoring the Gaza ceasefire. And this is pretty crude, the screens that they've got in front of them. It's fairly early in that deployment, and they're still operational there. The real danger of military AI isn't killer robots. It's worse human judgment, maybe relying too much on AI when the AI might be wrong. So our wisdom, our judgment, our combat experience, all comes to that decision making. So these are strategic themes. Speed as the new decisive advantage, speed. And in the artillery, speed is everything, because lives depend on us getting fire on the target, speed, getting the A-10s, support the ground troops. AI compresses decision cycles from hours to minutes or even seconds. Whoever senses, decides, and acts faster gains the battlefield advantage. Warfare is shifting from firepower dominance to decision speed dominance. Look what's happening with these relatively low-cost drones. And I'll talk about that in some detail in a minute or two. What next and last item in strategic theme is human plus machine teaming. AI is not replacing commanders, it's augmenting them. Now, going back to my fire direction center, we had plotting tables, we had slide rules, we had pins in a map. Okay, you could see it. And we were taking information from forward observers on the phone or wire or whatever. So that was the information we were getting. It was slow. We still had vacuum tube radios from World War II. I'm not old, not World War II though. So, and humans set intent, machines process options, detect patterns, and recommend options. All right. So it was my Ford observers recommending in the fire direction center. The best future force combines human judgment with machine speed. Now that's what this rest of this presentation's about. Oh, there's another one. Okay. Multi-domain warfare, land, sea, air, space, and cyber are now simultaneous battlefields. These slides are the key to our thinking right now. This is what's happening now. AI is the glue connecting it all. You can't connect it without AI. It's just overwhelming. AI is becoming the command layer of joint warfare. So our leaders today need to know how to operate and assimilate all this information that's coming in. And those of us like Jim and Jerry and others who are in the business of building systems, how you present this to the decision maker is absolutely key. You can't overwhelm bandwidth. The human mind doesn't handle a whole lot of simultaneous information. All right, now what we're going to do, note the arrows that are going to appear on this slide. These are the topics that I'm going to talk about. There's 4 of them, and then I'll do a wrap up at the end. So when I said this was a voyage of discovery, I was working on a project and I found a file that had been misfiled in that file folder. And it was about a company I worked with in the end of 2010. And I don't remember a whole lot about it. I don't remember how they engaged me or what, I remember what they asked me to do. But it was a very small company. And I didn't know much about it, and I didn't ask a lot of questions about it. I just did what they asked me to do. And they asked me to help them manage their projects better and to talk about their growth going into the year 2011. And this company, as far as I could tell, they were all special operators from different branches. I don't know if they were still on, they were in civilian clothes. I don't know if they were on active duty, retired, or anything. So I did what I did, and they were very interesting. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. This is that company today. It still exists. It's called Ultralife. And they were I think they probably had only one location back then. But they have migrated into this field. So what they did is that they didn't bid on anything. They didn't submit proposals. They listened to what the field operators needed, and they built it and put it on the shelf and said, this is what we've got. If you want it, here's the price. It was a very interesting model, but they were being directly responsive to the field. And that's one of the reasons Ukraine has been so successful. And I'm going to talk about what they did in some detail. I could go into this more and more, but I think you get the idea. This is the rapid response. All of this today is even more relevant 15, 16 years later because of the transformation in warfare and the businesses they're in. Okay, now let me just make sure we're on the same slide. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Ukraine. And you're going to see an overall slide. What I've done is AI creates these amazing summary slides, but they are so dense that I take just a little portion of each one and blow it up so you can see it. So what you're seeing here, this is a digital resource marketplace. Ukraine put in an Amazon-like capability. And what this is the frontline units earn points for performance. In other words, if they kill the tank, it's got so many points. And the metrics change. When there are no more tanks left for them to attack, they raise the score for individual Russian soldiers. Now, have any of you seen any videos of actual these first-person videos of any of these engagements? Couple of people. It's pretty scary, isn't it? In terms of you see the panic on the face of the individual who realizes the drone is coming after them. You see them bailing out of trucks. You see a man in a cell phone tower as it comes to get them. So it's very up close and personal. And you'll see an AI generated photo of that. I didn't want to use any actual. So this is the point system. They get points and their performance then, as they accumulate points, because they are successful warfighters, they get to buy more of whatever they want. So there's a catalog, and this shows the catalog, and it shows how many credits. For example, a loitering mission is worth, you have to spend 75 credits. A robotic ground system is 80, and so on. Software and AI tools and so on. So they've got individual prices that vary in this Amazon-like catalog. And then they get what they want, they use it, it's all verified that they are accurate. And so it is a different kind of warfare. I don't think we can have that kind of catalog, but our Army doesn't quite work that way. But I think we are looking at adopting this kind of practice here in our military. All right, now here you're seeing a bit more of the picture, okay? So what happens, the flow goes from the catalog to the commander on the left. And the commander's got strategic priorities and so on. And then over on the right um, is the actual battlefield and controller. Here is it in 4 quadrants and how it all works together. I don't expect you to read this. This is being recorded, but I don't have any objection to sharing this with all of you. We need to figure out a way to do that. First of all, my name is Steve Garfein. No space, no period between Steve and Garfein at gmail.com. If you want this presentation, send me an email, OBP, Old Bull Pilot presentation, and I'll send you this in a 2-slide per, or maybe 1 per page, depending on how big it is in a PDF. Now, here's a hybrid where you actually see the command center and it is keeping track of this. And this kind of command center really exists in Ukraine, and we have them too. I had the privilege last year of going out to 29 Palms. And those of you who are familiar with that facility, they built the city of Fallujah out there for warfighting training, and it operates on 3 levels. Let me know when I've got 10 minutes left. Okay, how am I doing right now? Good. I'm good, all right. And so they've got tunnels, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4-story buildings, they've got airborne operations, and it is all instrumented on big screens. And I was watching the instrumentation and the artillery coming in, all simulated, of course, nothing live. And we are very, very sophisticated in both our R&D and our operational training. Now, this is interesting because this is AI generated. Remember, unless I tell you otherwise, these are all AI generated. Now, how is it getting so smart? Let's see, I don't need to stay near that. Got the 2 mics. Yep. I'm good, all right. What it is, AI is learning from all of us. For example, I've been in business 46 years. It knows my business processes. It says, would you like to apply this framework? For example, we have a presidential daily brief framework. We have a preferred future state framework. And you'll see that because I'll look back on this from the year 2036, 10 years from now. And I will tell you how I think this is going to evolve over the next 10 years. That's my closing slide. Now, why this is so important is the person in the foreground is the operator. The decision makers are in front of that console. And this is the way I believe it works. And the reason I believe that is this is the way our group artillery was back in the day, but it was all manual. And now it's all screens. But they're the decision makers up front. And here all I've done is isolate the 2 on the bottom. In the center, you've got the risk assessment, okay? AI is recommending this. This has a 35% risk. You know, I was talking to a Green Beret who was stationed in the Delta last week in Vietnam, and he remembers the artillery coming in close, sometimes a little too close. And there is a lot of risk in these munitions. So that just a little more on the left hand is the mission timeline, all the various elements that are being coordinated. It might be Space Force having a satellite over the area you're interested in, and when you're launching the B-2s from the United States 24 hours before they're over the target. Now, this is very interesting because a lot of the controversy today has to do with control of these things. Now, this is a true story. I worked and those of you who, I think my first talk here several years ago was about lessons learned in Howard Hughes's hobby shop. Well, that is the first air-to-air missile developed in 1949 and 50 and so on. And that's, I believe, a Sidewinder. And Howard Hughes, his two chief scientists, Raymond and Woolridge, went on to form TRW. And Howard could not understand how that missile could home in and destroy that aircraft if it didn't know where the ground was. The ground was irrelevant. All it needed to know is where the other aircraft was. The point is that this is a fire and forget missile. I've worked on 4 missile programs: AMRAAM, Trident, Advanced Cruise Missile, and Hellfire. And they're essentially all fire and forget. You launch them, you're not going to call them back. All right? And that is one of the controversial issues in some quarters. And there's Howard in 1952, and he so managed this that Raymond Woolridge walked out, formed TRW, and the Secretary of the Air Force came and met with Howard one-on-one and said, if you do not use aircraft at arm's length where you cannot meddle with it anymore, you'll never get another military contract. So he did it, and he couldn't touch Hughes aircraft. He owned our company wholly and pretty much mismanaged it along the way. Except we produced great helicopters, despite Howard. All right, now we're going to talk about those helicopters, because those helicopters first flew in September 30th, 1975. Now, this arrow or this box around, that's me in 1975. That's the world test, where we spin it up for the first time and it's in a cage, so if something comes loose, it doesn't kill anybody. I waited 51 years for bell-bottom trousers to come back. I didn't say why not. In any event, this is a story like the B-52 or the A-10 aircraft. They can't kill those things. The Air Force for decades, wanted to get rid of the A-10. They wanted to put money elsewhere. But the A-10 is still around and very viable, played a big role in the rescue of the downed pilots in Iran. So let's look at where this has evolved. First of all, I had the privilege of managing the armament proposal for the Apache. And at the time, it was designed to counter Russian tanks coming through the Fulda Gap. And we knew the Hellfire missile was coming, but we couldn't talk about it. But there's the Hellfire. And again, it's one of these fire and forget. And the bottom of the photograph, you can see that disc on top of the rotor mast. That is a radar that simultaneously looks at 256 targets at the same time and recommends to the co-pilot gunner which ones they might consider. By the way, there are a lot of female pilots in the Apache system. Now, this is the chain gun, and we invented it in our ordnance department at Hughes Helicopter Company. But now, those rounds are the 30 millimeter rounds. They're a little bit larger than my thumb. And they now have proximity fuses. So the Apache is shooting down drones. It's actually doing that now, real time. And every country in the Middle East has Apaches, even Morocco, except Iran. So they are ubiquitous over there. And here's here's the front seat co-pilot gunner on the Apache. This is the glass cockpit. You can see how it's giving, it's integrating all the information about targets and so on. This is not operational at this point. And obviously I don't have a clearance at this point, so nothing I'm saying is classified. All right, this is the AI view of the first person drone. And oftentimes these are wire guided, so there's a connection directly back and they can't be jammed. But this is just one of the myriad of things Ukrainians can get out of the catalog. Now we're going to talk about the two aircraft. And in this one, the one at the bottom of the screen is the Anduril aircraft with the V-tail. And the other one is by General Atomics. I'm not going to say too much about them right now, except the pilot workload is horrendous. And you have to, those collaborative aircraft have to be smart enough so they act like a real wingman, like go forward and look for radars or cover my six, or just simple commands where they don't increase your workload. And I've got a whole section, and so basically in all of these, it produced a lot of analysis that's backing up these slides. And I did a lot of neuroscience questions about pilot workload. And for example, if you are getting shot at, a lot of things happen to your mind that focuses your mind, and you're going to worry a lot more about your survival than perhaps other things, like your wingman, who's more or less got to be autonomous. And then here's other views of it. We don't know much about the size of the workload, bomb load, external or internal on these. We don't even know if they're affordable. And then here are two examples of undersea drones. Now, we're leaving right after this talk and are driving up to our home in Paulsbo, Washington on the Kitsap Peninsula. We've got the aircraft carriers there. We've got Bangor with the subs. And we have Keyport, which has the undersea R&D squadrons. And this is one of them. This particular one is a DARPA project. And then this one is a Boeing project. No, I'm sorry. This one is the Anduril project. So Anduril has undersea warfare. This is a big unit. I've had tours of this facility, the unclassified part of it. The Navy's doing a lot more than we know about in the undersea warfare area. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into my last slide. And then in Q&A, let's see, I've got this microphone, which is going to the recording and external, and this one for the room. So when we get to the Q&A, I will come to you and we'll share the mic. So what this is saying is on the left-hand side, well, there are three columns. First column is dimension, and then middle column is 2026, and then 2036. So let's go down this, because this is where this is going as far as I am concerned. So decision speed moves from hours to seconds. Joint integration is partial now, and it becomes seamless in 10 years. Drone scale is growing, but it'll be massive in 10 years. Logistics is reactive now. It'll be predictive, more predictive than it is now. Coalition ops are slow, but they will be real time. All right. Cyber defense is episodic, and it'll be continuous. Now I'm going to stop here. In today's news, Anthropic is again crosswise with our government, because they have this software that is amazing. It'll find all the flaws in security flaws in various systems. They've licensed it to 50 companies. There's already been leaks out of those 50 companies. This is a very dangerous piece of software. It gets into the hands of your enemies, then they can use it to quickly find the vulnerabilities that they never would have found otherwise, except for this Anthropic software. So again, our government is very unhappy that they want to add 75 more companies to this. And I won't say any more, it's more complex than that. I am not a fan of Anthropic. So going on, procurement will be significantly shortened. And my first example of ultralight and the new emerging fast response companies like Android, or General Atomics, or Palantir. Those are the new aerospace companies. They don't have the legacy constraints that the big companies have. The big companies are looking at breaking themselves up, which I think is a good idea. Get them responsive, get them to sit on their own bottoms, their own P&Ls, and more responsive. And then lastly, human error. It's significant now and will be greatly reduced. Then what is happening is, I wrote this in two, but there is the overall diagram, which you can't read, but I took you through the part of it. But this was AI generated based on all the input that I have. I'll tell you what, just start passing this around this table. Steve, if you would start these two around the back. These are the quality of what AI is capable to do. So I'm talking about AI in the military, but what I've done today is give you a demonstration of how just one civilian user without a clearance can put together a fairly decent overview. And how did this happen? Because AI is listening and learning from all of us. We are teaching AI the questions to ask. It goes out and it finds these graphics and then makes them their own, like they're real. So that's it, Steve. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move between. Thank you. So, I'm going to pick on Bob. and then we'll get over here. Bob, pilot workload. What are your thoughts about this loyal wingman collaborative aircraft? How would you like to fly with one?
Well, back when I flew the A-10, it was 1978, 79, so it was a long, long time ago. So I never flew that. But I can relate it a little bit further back to Vietnam in pilot workload and flying the 104, scoring some of Frank Tulo's F-105s on Wild Weasel missions up north. And your workload was tremendous, and it was scary because we were theoretically escorting 105s while we're all being shot at either by anti-aircraft fire or missiles. Plus, you were trying to keep your wingman in sight and keep the guy you were escorting in sight. And it was the workload was unreal. I remember a flight of 4 104s and 4 105s. 3 missiles fired at us blind. We didn't have any indication that the missiles were coming up. We all were ducking and split, and the workload, you couldn't keep your wingman in sight. You couldn't keep the guy you were trying to help in sight. Diving at the ground, and I forgot that I had not turned off the shaker and the kicker in the F-104 that helped you from stalling. Diving at the ground, going to hit the ground. I pulling like a son of a gun. And I didn't know I had just completely screwed up and forgotten. I pulled so hard that I fired the guns and I blew a big hole in a bunch of trees in North Vietnam. And my kicker was going off and all the lights went off in the cockpit. I thought I was hit. I didn't have much information. And then we split and never saw the 105s again. Was able to find my leader and get my butt back to Udorn. But the workload in that kind of situation was overwhelming. And if I had had other information, like where was the guy? What was the guy doing? How far away was the guy I was trying to help with? I'd get a vector to go help him if I had some of that AI. So workload is unreal. The same thing now, I guess, in the A-10 with trying to know where the good guys are on the ground and are you hitting the good guy or the bad guy. Workload is a tremendous thing. I think that probably the CCA, the aircraft, will be helpful in making me as a leader, not having to worry about whether my wingman was going to get his butt shot down or not.
That is a great observation. Thank you, Bob.
That was wonderful, Steve. Really appreciate it. I have one comment, and I want to get your opinion on this. The comment was that at the end of your conversation with the AI that you started with, you were very polite and said thank you, and I'll see you later. Those conversations cost $10 million in energy around the world. Every time you say thank you, and it happens 100 billion times, it costs money. So I appreciate your politeness. For those of you who use AI, just be aware of that. This is what I want your opinion on. It has to do with the security of AI. We have export laws on sending chips like from NVIDIA to other countries. Anthropic accidentally released a whole bunch of code last week by mistake. Is there any realistic way to protect our AI? What stops a company in a legitimate expertise from setting up, ordering a crate of NVIDIA chips and then selling it to a bad actor? How does the US keep its AI secure? Is it even possible?
All right, you got a bunch of statements and one question. First of all, your observation about using AI. I have a granddaughter who's so concerned about the use of water and electricity, that it's all consuming. It's affecting her life and her life decisions. Jerry knows that we have a couple of pilots in our policy discussion group, and I'm blanking on his name now. It'll come to me. He speaks in a very clipped way. He doesn't say please, thank you. He was a helicopter pilot. And he is very, very efficient. Jeff Salerno, he just speaks the way you should speak to AI. And I'm concerned. So thank you for pointing that out. And yes, there are so many bad, risky dimensions. But as I keep telling our policy group, I am an optimist. I think we are solving so many of the energy problems and other problems. They're now looking at putting AI installations in space, and we started exploring that a couple of years ago. We also looked at beaming energy out of space down to Earth. So, other questions?
Do you think that we'll ever be able to maintain our superiority in these capabilities, or do you think that China is going to just acquire the technology? And do you think that if that's the case, that there would ever be a parity where it might be like mutually assured destruction, where because everybody knows what to do to defeat the other, that we just won't go to battle?
All right, Dan, you remember I'm the optimist in the group. And I think, well, first of all, something happened that I really disagree with today, and that is Bernie Sanders invited the Chinese to our AI conference. I think that is a big, big mistake. But I am very optimistic about China. If you know much about China and their current situation, they are bellicose. They do have a very strong military. We are in head-to-head competition with them. But I think the last thing they want is war. And I think, in my opinion, and we have someone who knows probably a lot more in the audience than I do about this, but I think what's happened in Russia is a total embarrassment for China. So we'll see. All right, we're going to go here and then we'll go here.
I would like to know what AI would say about the current outcome of your war.
Well, that's very interesting. That's a great question because I use AI to run scenarios. And so, for example, I run maybe 2 scenarios a day because of the 2 things I lead the policy discussion group in the AI class. And so a month ago, I ran one of our options with Carg Island, and then we discussed it in our policy discussion group. And my opinion was, you know, put boots on the ground. And you don't want to destroy Carg Island. But what you can very easily do is take out the docks, the loading docks, and they are very easy to replace temporarily and then permanently. You don't want to, where is it going? I can ask AI, but I'll give you my opinion. I think Iran is on its knees right now, and they can't sustain it for very long. We will see, but that's not an AI opinion. I haven't run a scenario on that, but that's one of the great values of AI. And Jerry, you've seen a lot of that in your time with us. Yeah. All right.
I was listening to some kids talk the other night. One works for a defense contractor. We were drinking a little bit, and they can't say a whole lot, but what I gathered was very interesting. So the Chinese started selling drones in the United States, and they have literally mapped the entire United States with little kids flying drones around. The entire United States is mapped and pictured to a gnat's ass from the software from the kids' drones. I mean, if you can believe that what's been going on, I mean, I, you know, just very basic, you know, $500 drone with a camera on it. I don't know if any of you seen what the capabilities of these drones are. It's astounding. Even from 7 or 8 years ago, I witnessed some stuff that I couldn't believe that you could photograph and see. We were off the grid No cell towers, nothing. My son opens up his box on the picnic table, unfolds this little toy with 4 propellers on it, gets out his iPhone, we're off the grid, no Wi-Fi, nothing. And he goes, I'm gonna go fly over to the other side of the lake, see what's going on. I go check on the neighbors, see if they're there. Goes over, just playing with it, goes by the neighbor's house, stops, looks. Well, the neighbor is a US Senator. Drone flying back and forth. They're looking at it. And so he just pushes a button and he's drinking beer and the drone comes back and lands. Well, this was 7 or 8 years ago with a $2,000 drone. And I could only imagine today, but I can honestly tell you that it's very basic. So one of these small drones comes, I don't know if any of you are waterfall hunters. So one of the failings in the war over there is these guys have, automatic weapons. They don't have shotguns. These little drones that are flying around, you can just blow them out of the sky with a shotgun. And it's a big failure. Nobody would ever have thought to use shotguns, for going after an individual. And they're small, these little drones. And I guess there's a rage going on in Washington, D.C. right now over the drones. I mean, they are raging. But one of the nice things about a war is we can, and I don't condone war. It's been a meat grinder over there. There's 2 million people have died. But I can tell you, we can see all their technology and know exactly what they're doing. It's astounding how basic this drone technology is. I mean, it's astounding what the Ukrainians have been able to do.
Yeah, that's really something to watch as Europe coalesces around Ukraine. It looks like it may happen.
It strikes me as kind of odd when you were asking AI for a scenario. I'm thinking AI and you are getting a lot closer together now because it records what you say and
Right.
remembers what you say.
Right.
At some point, there may be a crossover that AI is really your ideas, your analysis. I just think that's kind of funny. So should we be careful what we say to our AIs? Because it's a language model, it builds up. And you may be, giving it, you might be sabotaging it with your own particular views. I think it's kind of ironic, that's all.
Well, I think you bring up a couple of good points. First of all, you have to be careful AI is not pandering to you. Okay. Secondly, our PDG, we've got very, very senior people in it. Fellow who worked directly for Rumsfeld, for example. Policy Discussion Group.
Steve, we don't know PDG.
Policy Discussion Group. It's something.
You do.
It's a group I formed over 5 years ago because we wanted to talk about difficult subjects.
What's your product? Who do you give it to, or just?
We don't.
Okay.
We are a think tank, and because of my orientation, we're becoming more and more
So
like.
It's like old pilots with brains.
Well, you are right. More right than you think, because we're all senior. We've had amazing careers. So we bring wisdom to it. That's why when we run scenarios, we judge them based on our accumulated wisdom, what you want your commanders to do. And I am a big fan of the military and also the diplomatic service because of their education. It's an MBA maybe that we get. But the military education as you need it is just superlative as you go up in rank. And how are we doing? We done? Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for a great presentation.
That'll do it for this year. We'll look forward to seeing everything in October and then Elizabeth's talk. Have a
That
great
guy's
summer
question,
and
one
we'll
of the
see you
best
in the
I've
fall.
ever heard.
Yeah,
Be careful when you're talking to, because he's learning from the conversations.
yeah,
But anyway, that was wonderful. Thank you.
thank you. Well, I had fun, you could tell.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You're into it. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Hmm. Thank you. I had fun.
That was good, Steve, thanks. I emailed you to ask you for your pitch.
Okay.
I'm Ron, yeah. It's
Super.
So what would AI say if we asked them about China's AI programs?